In this video, I'll be talking about using a 2x converter. Are they any good? Are they worth buying? Depending on what lens you use it with, sometimes they can produce amazingly sharp images. And all the pictures you're going to see in this video are taken with a 40 to 150mm f2.8 with the MC20 2x converter. So in this video I'm back at my hide location, the feeding station that I have set up on private land. And in this video what I'm actually doing is talking about using and showing pictures taken using a 2x converter. Now what I'm actually using it, or been using it on, is the 40 to 150 2.8 lens. So I'll show you pictures from that. I've never really been a great fan of 2x converters, to be honest. When I used Canon, I had a Canon 5D3, I had a 600mm f4 lens. It's a great lens, it's very, very sharp. You could put a 1.4 converter on it and the results were quite acceptable. If you put a 2x converter on it, you could definitely see there was a different sort of lack of sharpness with a 2x on. Put a 2x on this and the pictures come out really, really sharp. Now 2x converters don't work with every lens. It's certainly very, very sharp on this. It was very, very sharp on my old 300 f4 lens. But some lenses it doesn't work so well with, but it certainly produces very, very sharp results with this. So one of the reasons I've been using this lens as opposed to my 150 to 400, which I would normally use at this setup, is that a few weeks ago I had a friend from the camera club came here. She uses Olympus systems. She's only got a 300mm f4 lens. Now it's not a problem, it's a great lens. I had a 300 f4 for about 3 years and it's pin sharp all the way through. So the only problem with working from a hide with a fixed focal length lens is that if a small bird, you frame up on a small bird, that's fine, but then a larger bird like a jay or a jackdaw or a woodpecker comes down and you're not going to get it all in. So in a hide setup, a zoom option is a lot better than a fixed focal length lens. So I lent her for the day my 150 to 400. That's the lens I would normally use here. But I thought I'd give this a try, see what it's like, put a 2x on. It's still giving me a reasonable focal length lens. And the other reason that I wanted to try this out is because just recently, since I've made all the alterations to the hide setup, I've been having a sparrowhawk coming down, and it will come down there and it's had a blue tit and a great tit and that sort of thing. Hasn't happened while I've been here. I've turned up the next day and found a pile of feathers on there. But the only trouble with my 150 to 400, from the distance that the setup is, the reflection pool and the logs and everything, it's going to be a bit tight. So using this option gives me the opportunity, if the sparrowhawk comes down, and what I'd really like to get a shot of, I haven't yet, is actually it bathing in the reflection pool. But using this option I'm going to be able to zoom back and get it all in. Sod's law, since I've been using this lens and trying it out here, sparrowhawk hasn't been down, but I live in hope anyway. But I've been very, very impressed with the results of this 2x converter on this 40 to 150. Now I'm not going to say it's a great combination with all lenses. I had used it on my 150 to 400, the 2x on that, and although the results are acceptable, you can actually see a little fall off in quality, but certainly I'm seeing no fall off in quality when I'm using it on this. And I also used to use it when I had my 300 f4 and there was no loss in quality on that. But certainly it's been producing some very, very good images, and I'm going to show you some of the pictures now. So a few weeks ago we had a very cold spell where it didn't have any snow or anything, but we had very severe frost and the temperature was really down, and that brought the fieldfares into this setup here. Now what was bringing them in was obviously the food we were putting out. I was actually putting apples out onto the actual ground on the grass, but also what I've been doing is hanging apples up in these bushes and trees here. And what I've actually been using or doing is this is what I call an apple kebab. Basically, you can buy these stainless steel spikes from Amazon. They've got a hook there on the end, and you unscrew this part here and then just thread your apples onto the actual spike, then screw the bit that at the bottom. So I hang them up in the trees, and certainly the blackbirds, the fieldfares, we haven't had any redwings, but certainly those have really been loving these, and also the other birds, the starlings, will come there and eat them as well. So that's another thing that you can, in the winter, you can actually use to attract birds. As I say, you just hang them up on the trees and birds love them. So in the situation here where the actual birds are coming quite close to the hide, with a 2x converter on 300mm on a micro four thirds camera, it's close enough. I can still get frame filling shots of the small birds, and then if something larger does come down, I can zoom out. One of the things I've been trying to do, not today so much because it's quite cloudy and overcast, but the other day when it was nice and sunny, is to actually get birds in flight using Pro Capture. I've got a post there that I've drilled out with holes in it, and I plug it with suet and things like that for the woodpecker, but also the long-tailed tits, blue tits, that sort of thing. They'll come on it, and basically what I'm trying to do is when I see them on there, I'm trying to get them as they're flying back to the bushes, because invariably that's the way they're going to go. They'll go for cover. So when I'm framing the picture up, I have to make sure that there's enough space for the actual bird to fly into. So I'll actually sort of have it so that there's probably about a quarter to a third of the picture will be the post, and the other part of the picture will be just space for the bird to fly into. And it's been working pretty well. But considering pictures are all taken with 2x converter on, they've come out amazingly sharp. So don't sort of think that 2x converters aren't any good. They will work very, very well with certain lenses. So one advantage of using the 40-150 with the 2x on is because that lens is an internal zoom. It's not one of these trombone zooms where when you zoom it the lens actually moves in and out. Here it's internal, so I can change the focusing, framing and zoom sort of depending on whether it's, say, a small bird like a greenfinch, which is actually a greenfinch there now. So I'm going to take a few shots. So I can zoom into it a little bit tighter now and take a few pictures, and you don't have this lens where it's extending and retracting, which can spook birds, particularly things like jays. Some of the larger sort of crow family can get very, very spooky sort of as far as that sort of thing goes. Here, because they can't actually see the focal length changing, because it is an internal zoom, that's a big advantage. Today I've come here and the light is really good, so I've been doing some Pro Capture shots, and I've also been doing some video. And because it's turned a little bit cooler, the fieldfares are back. I've had a couple of 3 fieldfares coming down. They're coming down onto the kebabs that are up in the tree, but mainly they've been coming down onto the grass where I've sprinkled out some apples there, and I've got some good shots today, so I'm quite pleased with that. So I'm going to finish up the video showing a few shots and video clips taken using the 40-150 f2.8 plus the 2x converter. This shot of a greenfinch had come down to the edge of the reflection pool to have a drink, and as you can see it's pin sharp. This action shot was taken of a blackbird and a great spotted woodpecker, and here you can see they're on a post and having a little bit of a confrontation. This robin was coming down quite regularly to the actual table that I have by the side of the reflection pool. I will actually be making a future video where I'm actually showing how I've set this up and hopefully the pictures I'll be taking. This shot of a blue tit in flight was taken using Pro Capture, and this was the crop from a picture as it was flying away from the post. So this is another confrontation picture where you've got sort of the starling and the woodpecker getting ready to have a go at each other. This is where really Pro Capture comes into its own, because when you see this it might happen for the briefest part of a second, but if you've got Pro Capture running, you know you're not going to miss it. And the same again with this shot where you've got two starlings in flight and they're sort of obviously sort of having a little bit of a tussle. This is a shot of a coal tit there. Don't get many coal tits coming in at the hide, but certainly, you know, they're nice to see. The main ones we get of the tit family are blue tits, great tits and long-tailed tits. So now and again it's nice to see a coal tit. So this is a portrait crop of a fieldfare that's coming up to one of the kebabs. This was day when it was really good light, and actually the day when my friend was actually sitting in the hide with me. Because my friend was using the 150 to 400, that meant I had to use my 40 to 150. But with the 2x converter on, that's doubling the focal length of that lens. So that 40 to 150 actually becomes an 80 to 300. And at the 300mm end of the zoom, it's the equivalent of a 600mm on a full frame. So from the position where I was actually in the hide, I could get virtually frame filling shots quite easily. This is another Pro Capture shot, long-tailed tit, just as it's flying away from the post there. Often you will find that what happens is they will have maybe some bird paste or a bit of peanut or something in their beak as they're flying away, which can spoil the picture. It's quite easy actually to rectify now in Photoshop using generative fill AI, but if you want to enter into a natural history competition you can't use that. So one thing you must take into account when you're using a 2x converter is that although it will double your focal length range, you will lose 2 stops of light. So not too bad for me with the 40 to 150 because it's a f2.8 lens. So I put a 2x on that, it will give me f5.6, which is still quite a usable aperture. But if your maximum aperture on, say, the lens you're using is 5.6 to start off with, put a 2x on, it's going to be f11, which means you can only really use it in decent light. So if you like the video, subscribe to the channel to be notified of future uploads. Thanks for watching.